everybody, Mark from Northeast Bass Fishing. How you guys doing? Well, as I sit here during the impending snowstorm in the Northeast, maybe I'll get lucky and it'll just be rain, but I've already had rain and sleet today. So I thought I'd talk about spring fishing. And I just started getting my rods out and reels out. If you guys saw the short, I was kind of showing you how I kind of did some setups. And I actually tied on some baits today because I'm really hoping next week, after this nor'easter blows through, next week looks nice. I see 60s, so as long as we don't get slammed too bad, and it takes a few days for the ramps to open up just from the snow, hopefully I can get out. So I did put together, I think, 6 of my casting setups that I'll take with me the first time I go out. Now, my anticipation is the water's probably going to be in the low 40s, and where I fish I don't know. But for any of the lakes that I might fish near me, these are kind of the things that I want to go with to start the season when the water's cold. It all depends on the type of, if I'm in the river, it tends to be more rocky. Now, most of the lakes I fish are very rocky too, but a lot of them also have some grass, which will be there even though the water's going to be cold. There's still going to be the grass there. Now, I always will have, and I'll show you my setups here, I'm always going to have a flipping pitch and jig, and this is just a 1/2 ounce queen tackle tungsten jig. Got rattles on there. That's and I think you guys can see this. I don't know if you're going to be able to see those letters and numbers. It's kind of a cool thing I got this winter from Kistler. You guys may have seen these before, but these line reminder labels, they're really neat. And for me, who always forgets when I put my line on, what pound test it is, things like that, they have these little stickers that you can put right on your reel somewhere. And you can even write it down if you want. I didn't write it down. I just put the stickers on, but it has the month you put the month that you put the line on. I know these is going to be really tiny. I don't know if you're going to be able to really see it. It has the pound test and whether it's braid, monofilament, fluorocarbon, and then just some more numbers down there and different pound tests you can put on. So I don't know if you can see this. I hope you can, but if not, it's just an April. It's right here on the bottom of the reel there. It's April, and it's 20-pound fluorocarbon, and that's what this is on my flipping stick. And this is that new Enigma flipping reel I got this winter that I'm looking forward to trying out. And this is just my Ardent flip and pitch rod, which is a 7.5 inch medium heavy rod. One of my flipping sticks that I like to use because it's nice and light. And that's my setup. So I will always have a jig with me if those fish have moved up early in the season. Maybe they're around rock or weed, or they're near the bank. When you get those early season sunny days and the fish start to move around, I always want to have that jig with me just to see if they're there. I'll always have that ready to go if they're there. Now, staying on the jig topic, I also have, this is a 1/2 ounce Beast Coast open water sniper. That's the hybrid pumpkin color because it's got the hair in it. So when the water's cold, that little bit of hair in there can help. And that's the 1/2 ounce size. And this is on the Ardent football jig and football and worm jig. I think it's 7.4. Yeah, 7.4 medium heavy. This is a lefty loose cranking rod, or flipping rod, I guess, since I'll be flipping with it. So those are the 2 jigs. Now, the difference with this jig, now that flipping jig, I will use pork, especially in the spring like this when that water's cold. Here, with that football jig, I have some options. I can use pork. You guys know I like to use pork. That's an old super pork. You know I like to use pork on there, especially when that water's cold. But with that football head jig, which I'm doing more dragging, there's some options. I could go with one of the, like a Swimbait type trailer, like maybe the slow flow. Now, not necessarily that color, but I could use that from Beast Coast. I could throw a 3.3 Kitech or a 2.8 Kitech on there. I could put like a Ned style bait on there. That's just a Max Scent Little General. I could put that on there as my trailer. Most of the time when I'm throwing the open water sniper or a football head of that type, I'm using the Strike King Baby Rage Menace Grub. Now, not necessarily these colors, But that's usually what I'll use as my trailer, and I usually start with that. If I find the fish aren't really reacting to the jig at all, I'll definitely maybe switch to a pork trailer and see if that helps. Because it's a lot of trial and error early in the season like this when I'm anticipating, low 40s for the water next week. Fingers crossed that I get out and go fishing. So those are the 2 jig setups I'll have. Sometimes I may throw another jig rod in the boat with some lighter line. Like that one I said had 20. I may have something with lighter line just to see if maybe they like a little lighter line when the water's colder. But I think 20 is okay. Usually the water's pretty stained in the spring around me. Let's see. Another bait that I have to have on. Well, actually, I want to save that one because that's a new one. When all else fails, and usually when it's really slow in the spring, you gotta have a blade bait. Now, let's see, does that have the, yeah, I don't know if you guys, now of course it's gonna be upside down. I'm gonna knock everything around when I do this. But if you guys can see, I've got the numbers on there and the letters. April, 12-pound fluorocarbon, FC. So kind of a cool thing. If you guys have never seen them before and you want to try them out, you can look on Kistler, the Kistler rods, and they sell those. But this is a 1/2-ounce Binsky. It's a silver one. And I've thrown the Binskys and blade baits in general on spinning rods a lot, but last year I started doing it more with the baitcaster, and I like it, and I use that lefty retrieve. And that's just my Ardent Grand Reel, 12-pound fluorocarbon, as I said. And this is an Abu Garcia Vendetta, 7'3" medium heavy rod. So this will often save the day if it's really tough. When those fish, if they're pinned to the bottom still, they haven't started to move around, that blade bait is definitely mandatory in the spring when you're fishing cold water. So I will, I'll try different colors. I'll try the silver one. I'll try the gold one. The Binsky comes in some painted colors that I like. The chartreuse in the blue. The sexy shad one is nice. The black one works great. They have I think it's a perch one. It looks great. They're all great. Throwing a blade bait, you can lose some baits because you're throwing it on the bottom on rocks, and you do get hung up with those big trebles. But you also can sometimes land on the mother lode there, with that blade bait. So blade bait, definitely in the springtime, definitely. Let's see. I will usually bring one cranking rod. This is my Enigma glass rod you guys have seen many times. I think it's a 7.4 medium heavy. That's that Enigma glass rod. It's an Enigma Valkyrie VL100 casting reel. And I think this is 10-pound test. And this is just the Spro rock crawler. I'll always have some type of a crankbait on in the spring just to see if they're around rock. They're a little deeper because this will dive, I think, like 9 to 14 feet, the rock crawler. Any type of bait you like that's that kind of, rock type crankbait that you want to crank down and nail off the rocks. I like the rock crawler. I could throw a wiggle wart. There's other crankbaits, whatever one you guys like. I just kind of like that one in the spring when that water's cold, especially if I go to the river. I'll run this along the riprap rock that's around in certain areas and clank that off there and see if they react to it. But that's just my cranking setup. I'll probably also have a box of rattle traps with me just to see, especially if I'm going to fish excuse me, a lake that's very weedy, and just to see if they're willing to chase that trap yet. They may not be. Here I'm looking more for that reaction bite when this hits off rock. But if I'm fishing open water and I'm fishing a lake that has a lot of grass, I may throw the rattle trap too and see if they'll bite that. But I always have one cranking rod with me in the springtime. Let's see. And kind of on that same idea of fishing a grassy lake, I've got to have a chatterbait. Now, I will probably have a spinnerbait tied on too. I don't usually that water has to get a little warmer for me to get some action on the spinnerbait. But if I'm going to go to a grassy lake especially, a chatterbait is definitely got to be tied on. Definitely got to be tied on. That's just a half ounce jackhammer. That has that Zoom shimmer shad. I've shown you guys that in some other videos as a trailer that I'm looking forward to trying this year and seeing how I like the action. A lot of times I like to just use a grub. I'll have some grubs with me. I'll have some of those just to try them out and see how I like them. But this is a new rod. This is an Enigma Ipon rod, and it's a 7.6 medium heavy. I went with a little longer rod. I'm usually using a 7.3 when I'm throwing a chatterbait. This year I went with a little longer rod, see if I can get some longer casts. And it's just a lose reel. I believe that's, I couldn't tell, it doesn't have the thing. I think this is 12-pound fluoro on there. But just a chatterbait, just in case they're willing to chase it. I'll throw it around a little bit, especially if I'm on a grassy lake, and just to see if they'll react to it in that cold water. It's a lot, like as I said, it's a lot of trial and error when that water is in the low 40s. And the last one is something new I've talked about in some other videos. This is that Raid Japan, the head swimmer, the Libero. And this is the 1/2 ounce one, the 14-gram one. And this color is Chai Gill. And I just picked this out because I thought the color looked great. The jig head is so nice. I hate to throw this because I know the idea with this is to kind of almost slow roll it down on the rocks and just get that blade going. I almost hate to have this jig head smashing the rocks and getting all scraped up because it looks so nice, but what are you going to do if you want to catch some fish, right? But I've heard that this is a pretty good cold water option, so it gives you that Swimbait look, but it's also giving you that underspin look. This is going to kind of be my underspin setup for the year, which a lot of times I'm using, you know, the Wicked Weights underspins, the Kitex that I did so well with last year. So as the water warms up, I'm sure I'll use those more too. And that water's in the 40s like that. I don't really anticipate a great bite with the bigger Kitex, but who knows? And this is just one of my newer 7.3 medium heavy Abu Garcia Vendetta rods that I really like, and that's just a Grand that's a Ardent Grand reel. And I think that this is new line. If you guys can see that, April 12-pound fluoro. There's just 12-pound fluoro. So that's that. If you guys haven't seen my other video, you can check it out. It's a cool looking bait. So you've got that underspin look, you've got the Swimbait, you know, body on there, and you do have a little weed guard too. So if it is a little grassy down there, or if there's some cover you're going to bump into, this should hopefully keep you from getting hung up. And I have not thrown the bait yet, so I'm looking forward to it. Okay, so I just started getting them this winter. So that's it. So that is the casting setups I will have, with any luck, on the boat next week when I go out for the first time. That's the plan. After this nor'easter rolls through here, it's supposed to be in the 60s. So if we do get snow, so far it's just rain today. I'm hoping it stays warm enough where I am. I know the northern part of the state is going to get hammered. I'm hoping where I am in the southern part of the state we don't get too much, and then in a few days it's gone, and then we can get to spring fishing. But that's it, guys. So I've got the 2 jig setups, the football head jig, the regular flipping jig that I'll always have, the blade bait, the crankbait, and chatterbait, and that Libero, which is it's a really cool little bait. So if you guys have used these, let me know how you like them, especially in cold water. As I said, I just got those this winter, so I haven't got a chance to throw them yet. So we shall see. So that is my plan to have. That's my setup plan I'm going to use when I get out, hopefully next week. Now, as you know, you go out and then you catch fish on one thing. I'll probably catch them when I do my spinning setups for the spring. It'll be like a hair jig, and that'll be it. That'll be the only thing they want. And I'll have 12 rod and reel setups, and they'll eat one thing. But I guess if they're eating, who cares, right? That's it. So that's just kind of a general spring cold water setup as far as casting goes that I like to use. And as I said, with the jigs, I always prefer pork. I use pork most of the year. In the middle of the summer, I'll tend to use those plastic trailers that I like a little more. But especially in the spring when the water's cold, and in the fall, I go back and it's full time as pork is my trailer, because you guys know that it's just it's my favorite way to throw, my favorite trailer for jig fishing. That's it. So if there's any questions on any of the baits I showed you guys, any of the setups I have, if you got some great ideas, let me know. Things you like to throw when that water is like 42 or 40. I don't know what the water temps are going to be when I get out. I know this weather is not helping the water temperatures. The lakes are certainly going to be very full, but as far as water temps, if you're going to be pushing probably 40. I don't think it'll be even 45. But we'll see. So that's it. So like I said, any questions, any of the baits I showed you guys, any of those rod reel setups I have, let me know. But this will be the first part of some spring fishing tips and setups, and look for my my spinning setup video coming up soon. All right, so I'll see you guys soon on YouTube. Mark out.